my pleasure to introduce another governor this afternoon, and this is Governor Gilmore from Virginia. He was the 68th governor of the state of Virginia from 1998 to 2002, and he served as the chair of the RNC in 2001. He's currently president and CEO of Free Congress Foundation. This is a conservative think tank, and I had the opportunity to meet the governor a couple of years ago to learn about this think tank, and it's pretty good stuff. He is a true Southern gentleman, and I think you'll enjoy hearing from him. And he is actually, and I think I have this right, Governor Gilmore, you're on the board of directors of the NRA? He is indeed. So please join me in welcoming Governor Jim Gilmore.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's wonderful to see everybody here. I'm glad that I'm on time. I was afraid I was going to be a little late because I was frantically upstairs going through all my emails, seeing which ones I wanted to delete and get rid of. But I got it all done, and so here I am. So I'm delighted to be here, and I want to thank the New Hampshire Party for putting this on and making it available as a forum for all of us. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to talk to you about the challenges that face the United States and what we need to do about it. That's why I've come down to see you today. And I'm going to tell you what those two challenges are. Number one, I do not agree that the economy is in good shape in this country, and I believe it must become our mission to restore the economy, to get people working again, to get jobs going again in this country. That's the main thing that we have to do right now. And then second, I want to address the challenge that we're seeing of international relations. Now, the president says that the economy is just fine. Everything's okay. Unemployment's down and so on like that. But I don't accept this, ladies and gentlemen. This is not true. It is not true that the economy is going very well. The labor participation rate in this country is the lowest that it's maybe been ever in history. We have 27, almost 28 million people in this country today working part-time that want to work full-time. We've got 6.5 million people in this country that want to get a job and can't get a job. 48% of recent studies showed 48% of the college graduates that are coming out right now or working in jobs don't even require a bachelor's degree. Because what's going on is we don't have a robust recovery in this country. Everybody agrees, Republican, Democrat, liberal, conservative, we all agree that wages are stagnant in this country. And we're not seeing the kind of quality of life growth that America deserves. This is the fundamental problem that we have to face in America today. We have to address it, and it must be our mission to restore the economy and come back out of this recession. Now, that means we have to have a return, ladies and gentlemen, to that tried and true free enterprise system in the United States of America. That's what we have to have. And that means that we have to have investment in this country. We have to begin to grow this country and create more growth and more revenue and more excitement and more opportunities. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have a pretty tough time doing that, and here's why. President Obama does not believe in America. He doesn't. He doesn't believe in the America that I believe in and that you believe in. He doesn't believe in America of opportunity, of growth and excitement and new careers and new chances to have a better job and to have more money. What we see right now is that laws have now been passed that take capital gains and raise the taxes on capital gains. As a matter of fact, it's been raised from a 16%, 15% rate to a 26% rate. That's a 75% increase in capital gains. Why do we care? Well, we're all rich people. Why do we care? Is that what they say? It's because the higher you increase those kinds of taxes, the less investment you get. So we're running a deliberate policy right now to not have investment in this country. Dividends, the same thing. Increases on taxes on dividends, which makes doggone sure that people are not going to invest their money because they don't get as much out of dividends. We see right now that businesses that want to put something into their businesses in order to be able to hire people. You don't hire people to stand around. You hire people to have computers and work on them and be productive. And right now, the recapturing that money has been extended and made longer. And then finally, Obamacare. Obamacare is a problem, ladies and gentlemen, because It forces people to buy something they don't want and puts a government-owned system, an operated system in place. That's true. But the other problem with it is it's anti-growth, and it's intended to be anti-growth. Do you know that there is a penalty on people today that buy good health care, a Cadillac type of program, they charge a penalty on that? Do you know that right now that Obamacare doesn't even apply to a company unless you go over 49 employees, which means now companies all across the country are making sure they're not going to go above 49 employees. It means that growth is being stifled with Obamacare, and Obamacare must be ended, and we have to replace it with a real good health care system in this country. I've got a plan. I've thought it through very carefully, working with this nonprofit that I'm working on. Every candidate comes in here and says we've got to grow the economy. Everybody wants to be a candidate. Well, we've got to grow the economy. We know how to do it. I know how to do it. The plan that I have is this. We're going to change the tax code and create a 3-level system of 10, 15, and 25%. And that is going to mean a tax cut across the board for all working Americans. And that's the first thing that we're going to do. Now, I've done this in Virginia. When I was elected governor of Virginia, I ran on cutting the onerous car tax in Virginia. And in my 4 years as governor, we did. We reduced that car tax by 70%, and that put more money back into the pockets of working men and women. So I'm not talking out of my hat here. I know what we need to do. Secondly, we need to get rid of all the crony capitalism credits and deductions that we see in the tax code today and get the rate down for charging on corporate activity, small and large business, to 15%. That's what we need to do. You hear people tell you that we are in a global economy? Well, I can assure you it's true. The only difference is our people who are engaged in commercial activity in the United States are paying 35% tax rates, the highest in the world. And so then we have to compete with companies from England or Germany or China or other places across the world where they're paying lower tax rates, and we're not competitive. So that has to change. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, in order to preserve the ability for people with small businesses and small farms to pass the labor of their work down to their children, we need to eliminate the death tax in America today, once and for all. Now, this just isn't just slogans. This is a comprehensive plan that, if it is put together, our economists tell us it will grow the economy. Instead of 2% growth, we'll have 5% growth. We'll have hundreds of thousands and millions of new jobs for people to have an opportunity to really move their way forward. Why is it that nobody's really talking about tax cuts across the board? I just don't understand it. This is what works. In 1961, John F. Kennedy reduced taxes across the board. The economy grew. In 1981, Ronald Reagan reduced taxes across the board, and the economy grew. This has got to be the mission that we have to do. Secondly, the world crisis. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a problem today. And that is that we're being challenged by Russia, my old friends, the Russians. As you may or may not know, I'm a United States Army veteran. I was in the intelligence community in Europe during the Cold War. And now the Russians are back. And they're pushing against us because they perceive American weakness and uncertainty. The Iranians, determined to get a nuclear weapon. If they get that nuclear weapon, it will upset all of the balances and everything that's going on in the Middle East. I don't know whether this agreement is going to do the job. I sure would not like to see us in a war with Iran, but this is a serious challenge that we're seeing. And then now, the challenge of the new terrorism. Ladies and gentlemen, I chaired the National Commission on Homeland Security for the United States for 5 years. 3 years we did our reports and warned of the danger, and then the next thing we knew, the 9/11 attack happened. I was the governor of Virginia during the 9/11 attack. I actually became a war governor at that point. And we need a new foreign policy that will project American strength, not American uncertainty, not a policy that says that we're going to invade first and use American power and try to remake countries around the world without being able to foresee the consequences, but also not a policy like we're seeing with Barack Obama today that says pull back, pull back, pull back, and sending that kind of message of uncertainty and disengagement from the world today. It is a neo-isolationist policy, and that is not the policy that protects the United States of America. There must be a new foreign policy in this country. But ladies and gentlemen, President Obama doesn't believe in America. He doesn't believe in the America that I believe in, and I don't think he believes in the America you believe in. A country that is a force for good in the world. A country that can really make a difference in a positive way in the world. He just doesn't believe in that we can be a force for good in the world. The president gave a speech in Cairo when he first became president. Do you remember that speech? He went to Cairo and apologized for the United States and sent a message of uncertainty right from the very beginning that we were now going to be a different kind of country. He went to West Point and spoke to those wonderful graduates getting ready to take their degrees and their commissions and go out and stand up for us as necessary across the world, and told them that they weren't going to have any kind of difficulties because of America's policy of pullback. As an Army veteran, I was embarrassed by that speech. And then finally he goes to the prayer breakfast here just a few weeks ago and says at the prayer breakfast that ISIS are bad people, but we have to remember that during the Crusades, the Christians were bad people too. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when he gave those remarks, I went into the press and said that that was the worst statement I've ever heard a president make in my lifetime. And here's why. It isn't just standing up for faith. It's a matter of sending a message into the world with the bad people who are using this so-called false crusader kind of statement to recruit their people. And our president goes into the community and says, oh no, the Crusades were bad, Christians were bad, and we Americans, we're sorry for these things. Ladies and gentlemen, this is very bad. It's time for a new foreign policy for this country. But we have a president that won't do that because he doesn't believe in America. I believe in America. And I believe we have to have a foreign policy that believes in engagement in the world, one that shapes the world to make sure that the American people are safe, to make sure that we use all of our elements of power, diplomatic, cultural, the ability, the strength of the American people, our economy. The first thing I told you about is, I said to you, is about the economy. Economy and national security are the same thing. American power in the 20th century made a difference, and it will again. And I believe our policy, ladies and gentlemen, must be based on the premise of peace through strength in the United States of America. And finally, we have to have an international policy in a place in the world that understands what we're trying to do. And what we're trying to do, in my view, is in addition to the safety and security of the American people, we have to be willing to say that we are going to project our values into the 21st century. We are not going to let other cultures and other countries dominate the 21st century with their thinking. The Western values that America and its allies, and particularly America, stand for are vital. And what are those values? Democracy and freedom, the rule of law, the free enterprise system, the value of family, the freedom and tolerance of religion, and the advancement of women. These are the values that America stands for. This is why, together with security, we conduct our foreign policy. This gives us the mission for the 21st century that we must have. Now, we're going to do a little Q&A here in a few minutes. I'm looking forward to that. But before I stop, I want to say one more thing to you. As governor of Virginia, you stand in some great shoes. It's a great responsibility. As governor of Virginia, I think about some of my predecessors, like Governor Thomas Jefferson, for example. Before he became governor of Virginia, he wrote the Declaration of Independence, and he said in there that we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, among which are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And when he wrote those things, he didn't speak just as an American. He spoke for all humanity and remains so to this day. And I think about another governor of Virginia. By the way, Thomas Jefferson became governor, and the British tried to actually arrest him and hang him as governor of Virginia. He was a war governor too. Patrick Henry was another governor of Virginia. In 1775, the war was already going on in Boston, and the Virginians met in St. John's Church in Richmond. And at that time, there was a discussion, which way Virginia? What are we going to do? And there were some voices that said, we need to combine back up and reconcile back with King George III. And Patrick Henry stood up and said, no, I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me liberty or give me death. That ought to resonate real well in New Hampshire, it seems to me. So friends, the story about Patrick Henry means this. Patrick Henry believed in America. Patrick Henry believed in America before there was an America. I believe in America. You believe in America. And now it's time that we had a president that believes in America. Thank you very much for the chance to be with you. Question?
I'd like to ask a question. We have some microphones, so just raise your hand. Warren. Hold on, Tom's going to come to you. Governor.
Warren.
I don't really need a mic, so I'll just ask a question. You need a mic.
All right, thank you very much. How, as president, would you incentivize the Congress to have the courage and the fortitude to actually lower the business taxes, which we all know would increase our opportunities and stimulate our economy? How do you do that?
Yeah, you know, I think we've got to talk to the people of the United States about what's real here. We're all getting this information that everything is just fine, but you know people out there, and I do too, that are not having the opportunities that they're having, that they need to have. We know that people are working part-time. Do you know them? People that want full-time jobs and can't find them and are having to work part-time. We've got to do that. So what do you do with the Congress? Well, what you do with the Congress is make it clear the American people want better. And I'll tell you another story too. Another thing is, you know, congressional people really love to spend money. I don't know if you notice that or not, but they do. I stood up in front of a group that, of Republicans and Democrats here just recently, and I said, you know, many of you out there would like to spend every dime, wouldn't you? And they nodded. I said, yeah. And I said, fine, let's get more dimes. And we'll argue about whether we're going to use them on the debt or whether we're going to give them back to the American people or whether you want to spend it. But you can't have a stagnant economy. It isn't good for anybody. It's not good for your constituents. You need somebody that's going to stand up on a national basis and explain the truth to people. Explain to the American people that they're deliberately being kept in a slow growth economy that is depriving them of opportunities. I know what I'm talking about. When you increase the taxes on investment, you get less investment. People know that, and members of Congress know that too. And the time has come to take it over their heads to the people, someone who can talk to the people about the opportunities they're missing. I think it is a tragedy what is going on with young people. 48% of the young people are working in jobs that don't even require a college degree. I said that to you. Do you know what a tragedy that is? Every year America renews itself when people come out of college. We can't continue to stunt and stultify young people who are not getting a fair start in life. This is the kind of discussion that we have to have with the people, and then they'll take it to their Congress people, but you got to hold the Congress's feet to the fire and make it clear that growth must be the mission of the United States. It's in the national security interest, too. Yes, ma'am.
Ladies first, go ahead.
Oh, go right ahead. Sure.
Is this on? Yeah.
It's on.
Thank you, Paul. A question, you were with Homeland Security, and certainly our infrastructure is becoming aged, and especially our electrical grid was attacked in California, just a rogue attack. We've got drones. Somebody could certainly go over a system and bring it down. What are your suggestions for improving our infrastructure from a national security perspective?
Well, very good. Well, I chaired the National Commission on Homeland Security for the United States. I was actually approached when I was governor, interestingly enough, by the Clinton administration. They came to me, I was the governor of Virginia, they knew I had a background in terrorism issues and asked me to chair what is a very official commission. You'll find it on the RAND Corporation webpage. They staffed it. You put in Gilmore Commission on RAND in the RAND webpage, and the reports will come up, and you can see that. What we need to do is to be willing to advance our infrastructure and make sure that it's safe and secure. That's what we have to do. And all of those reports explain exactly the kind of processes we have to go through to make our infrastructure safe and secure. But I think that the real issue here is a real deep understanding of the potential attack on us. They can spend a couple of $1,000s and attack us, and then because of the modern information systems that we see, we can spend $1 trillion trying to respond to that kind of thing. Osama bin Laden said the goal was the destruction of the American economy, and that will certainly do it. So we have to have an explanation with the American people of these kinds of dangers, keep ourselves as secure as possible, but have a frank discussion with the American people that we're not going to surrender our freedoms or our liberties because of these kinds of attacks. We are going to be steadfast and strong, and we're going to stay Americans. You'll find in one of the letters that I wrote that I basically said that if the enemy can make us give up our civil freedoms, that's the entire game. And I'm certainly not going to be one that's ever going to propose that in the official reports, put an emphasis on the preservation of those liberties at the same time we're trying to protect our infrastructure. I also might say, by the way, Mike, Matt, if I could say.
No, the ambassador.
And I'm going to ask him, but Article 1, Section 8 of the Constitution does talk about internal improvements and infrastructure, and it's a legitimate thing for the United States to do. Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your service to your country. Thank you for coming up here and your very well-spoken notes. I would ask you 2 short questions. Everyone in this room, whomever they decide to vote for, we have one goal, and that's to take back the White House. What is the most important thing that you believe, sir, that we need to do in order to take back the White House, and number 2, to avoid losing the White House?
We Republicans are more diverse than the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party knows exactly what they're trying to do. They don't, they'll argue about who's going to run out front and put the flag up and be their leader, but their agenda is set and it's understood, and they don't argue with each other. We do. We Republicans are so diverse that there's a tendency to get at cross purposes with each other. Now, I believe if you look at all the elements of the Republican Party, and we're reflective of the people of the United States, that we can bring people together behind a common message. And that message must be growth of the American economy and peace through strength. We Republicans ought to be able to agree with that. And I believe that that is in concord, Ambassador, with the people's thinking across the United States. There's been a lot of discussion about how the potential candidate in 16 is probably going to be either a governor or a past governor because they want to see somebody who's actually run something. But I believe that what I'm bringing to the table is a long history of thinking about the international relations in this country. A degree in foreign policy from UVA, experience overseas, trained as an intelligence agent, trained in the German language, living among the German people, study of international law. Visited 18 countries on 3 continents as governor. In addition to that, I've been to Afghanistan, Pakistan, Israel, Croatia. Chaired the National Commission for 5 years on Homeland Security. After the 3 years in the 9/11 attack, I was the governor of Virginia during the 9/11 attack and had to protect my state and to reawaken the economy of my state, which took a terrible blow when they closed the airports in Virginia around the Washington, D.C. area. This is the kind of experience that I think that we take to the people of the United States. Listen, we're not going to win the presidency because we look pretty or because we've got some radical, weird thing that one of our candidates decides to say or something that's out of step with the American people. We will win if we are persuasive, that we care about regular people out there who can't get a job and can't work and don't have decent wages. And people out there who are recognizing the weakness that the United States' message is sending. I talked to you, Ambassador, a few moments ago about the President's weakness in the statements that he's projecting and the dangers that that's creating as the Russians then conquer the Crimea, push against the Ukraine, fly planes against the Baltic states. The terrorist people who continue to bubble up out there and threaten our country. ISIS, which represents a barbaric way of life that is completely out of sync with what we as Americans and our friends stand for in the 21st century, those values that I laid out to you. Don't you remember the strength of purpose that Ronald Reagan said when he said, Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall? If we have the strength to back it up, if we rebuild our economy, which was the beacon of liberty in the 20th century and can be again in the 21st, if we do these things, we can preserve the peace and, more importantly, preserve our values and our liberties in the 21st century. Next question. Yes.
Governor, do you believe that we can pass a constitutional balanced budget amendment? And what effect do you think passing that budget would have? Would we actually be able to shrink the federal government?
You know, in Virginia, we have a balanced budget amendment. We have to balance the budget. Every governor has to every year submit a budget that's in balance. But you know, you can balance a budget by borrowing. You can balance a budget by doing bonding. You could do that. And we did do that. People do that. When you buy a house, you balance your budget by borrowing money from a bank as well. You know, I'm skeptical, frankly, of a balanced budget amendment. I think that we probably ought to be in a position where we can get our legislators to begin to make some decisions about what's vital and what's not vital if we have a sense of direction. And you know what I'd rather do? I'd rather grow this economy. I'd rather create some real excitement and wealth in this country. And above all things, we have to stop this notion that we're seeing in America today that the opportunity to rise and to acquire wealth and to succeed is bad. That's what the opposition party is saying. Ladies and gentlemen, if you destroy either the incentives, the opportunity, or the will to become successful in this country, you destroy this country. And that is what the opposition party preaches every day. Success is evil. We'll tax it. We'll penalize it. That's what they're saying every day. I say no. I say that we have to give young people an opportunity to be educated, to succeed, to have a chance to grow and have some excitement. All of us ought to be able to do that. We should see our wages going up. We have to pay some more taxes, so be it. You know, frankly, that's probably the better way to do this. Instead of trying to constrain the government through some kind of budget amendment which can be worked around by governmental officials, let's grow the economy and create more wealth and then demand the people that we send to the House and the Senate do something meaningful about cutting the spending and controlling the spending in this country. I believe that the country can work. With proper presidential leadership, I believe the country can work. I say we have a president that doesn't believe in America, and I mean it, because the America he believes in is not the America I believe in, or you believe in. And we can restore that country again through leadership at the national level and in cooperation with our members in the House and the Senate, like Kelly Ayotte, who does such a good job for you here. We can do this. Maybe it didn't the answer you wanted, but it's the answer you got, so.
This will be the last question. We have about 2 minutes left. No. Michelle. We have 2 minutes.
Okay, thank you. I assume it's on. Okay, sir, how do you feel about, well, Congress has the power to levy taxes. We all agree on that. But how do you feel about unelected, unnamed EPA bureaucrats having the power to levy taxes on the American public and businesses via fossil fuel regulatory taxes?
Yeah. Well, that's a softball question, okay? Obviously, in this we all concur. The EPA is out of control. They have no concept of what they're doing through the extremeness of their ideas. And they should not have the power to levy regulations on people that cause businesses to have to spend that kind of money. Because the message that we have to give, ladies and gentlemen, from now on, is that we are determined to grow the economy back again. The EPA doesn't care about that. As a matter of fact, many people in the Environmental Protection Agency don't want to see a growing economy. They think it creates dirt. Right? We must grow the economy. And if the EPA puts in unreasonable regulations, that is wrong. And I fault the Congress very much. Where are they? How come they're not passing the legislation to draw these people back into line? You know? Well, if you have a president that believes in America and understands the opportunities that this precious country has brought for generations and generations, then we can build the support among the American people that says we're not going to dirty the air or dirty the water, but we're not going to allow crazy bureaucrats unaccountable to the people to raise costs on American opportunity and business, which creates less of it. That is the reality of what we must do. So, I guess they're going to jerk me around now. I'd really like to be here for another hour with you. I think it'd be great fun. Hey, Matt, can I get one more in? Yeah, there's no Matt Mayberry, so I can get one more in. Yes, sir. Don't tell him I'm doing this, okay? No, wait. You said this is the last one. This is the last one. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Sadan Kojo from New England College. And as a college student who's aware that college debt makes up $1.2 trillion of the national debt, I would like to know, as President of the United States, what you would do to lower that debt and keep it low.
I appreciate that. As the governor of the state of Virginia, I appointed the boards of visitors of all 15 of our major public universities, in Virginia. When I came in, I was alarmed by the amount of debt that our young people, both in and out of state, and our college students were having to load on. And I tried to understand what this problem was, and I tried to deal with the problem this way. I passed in my budget and passed a law that said that we were going to lower tuition for our universities 20%, and we did. Oh, Lord, the college administrators hated that. They hated it. So we built into the budget a priority for higher education. We said, fine, if it's going to cost you $5 million to lower the tuition 20%, we'll give you the $5 million. And if you go, and we put that in the budget, and because we made a commitment to higher education. But the passage of the cut was sent on to the mothers and fathers whose children were in the colleges. The cut the benefit was to them. So that's what I believe we need to do. I think we have let me say this. I think that higher education in America is an impending crisis because nobody is controlling the expenses and the expenditures that are going on the campus. When I was the governor, I cared so much about this, I interviewed every person I appointed to the Board of Visitors personally in my office, and I said to them, I want you to remember something. When you go to the college as a board member, you do not represent the college. You represent the shareholders, and you are a director of that organization, and you represent the shareholders, and the shareholders are the people of Virginia. Well, likewise, I believe that at the national level, we can make a commitment to higher education, not usurp the states, but we can use that bully pulpit to make it clear that this is a crisis and it must be addressed, this high expenditure without any type of oversight or accountability, the increase of administrators and not teachers, the expenses that are being loaded onto students, the increased debt is a national crisis. And I believe it can be addressed from Washington somewhat by leadership in working with the governors in order to address this problem nationwide. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt's going to jerk me off now for sure, so I'll leave you with this. What am I telling you? There are serious, fundamental problems that must be faced in this country that are not being faced. In fact, we are misleading people. It is time to grow this economy and create genuine excitement and opportunity for the people of America, and you can do it with a specific plan like the one that I've created. And the international challenge is most serious and must require for a new foreign policy and I'm telling you, it can be done. It doesn't have to be radical, and it certainly shouldn't be isolationist. And we can put together a plan that preserves America's position, once again makes it a force for good in the world, and preserves our values for the 21st century. Thank you very much for the chance to be here with you today. Thank you, Jennifer.
Very nice. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.